And hello, everybody. Welcome to At-Home Songwriting. I'm Chad Shank, hanging out with you here on a Thursday evening. Super excited for tonight because I have a very special guest joining me. As I hear myself coming through my phone too. Um, I talked to him before on the channel. We talked about his music, moving to Michigan from Minnesota. He's a fellow Minnesotan. And tonight, my special guest is Bowdizz, and he is a rapper, creative writer, creative thinker, somebody who studies kind of why we're creative. On his Instagram, I love what it says. Let me look it up here. I had it pulled up earlier. It says human being who makes music, writes, and explores the way we think. So welcome to the live stream, Bowdizz. Hello, how's it going?
Hey, Chad. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the generous intro.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you and I had chatted before. We kind of recorded a little interview, so we talked a bit about your music. You had been really just out of a fresh move, kind of getting yourself settled in Michigan, and now it's been a while since then. So I thought it'd be fun to catch up because you're doing a lot of cool things with your music. So, yeah, what's been going on lately?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'm happy to get into it. I'm looking forward to it. As of lately, I've just been kind of planning, figuring out what shows I'm going to do this year. I've been here for a year now, so I've kind of got found some more solid connections through music, and I'm able to kind of operate more efficiently. I'm more familiar with the area. So yeah, man, I've just been trying to be consistent and put out good content and prioritize creativity really, because that's something that's important to me. And we'll get into that, but um that's kind of where my head's at as of lately and where my intentions are.
So last time we chatted, I know you were saying that you were kind of doing a lot of your own production, writing your own songs. And for those watching who haven't heard of your music, you're a rapper and do kind of hip hop. Um, and are you still doing a lot of your own production at this point, or kind of has that evolved, or are you working with anybody else, or what does that look like for you?
I am actually working with a good friend that I met here in Michigan. He lives in South Haven, which is right along the coast of the lake there, and it's about 45 to 50 minutes away from me. He is an incredible musician, engineer, producer, and I've been collaborating a lot with him. And he has his own studio. He'll do the production, play guitar, and we'll just have like a very organic session. And then I'll kind of be there through the whole production process and kind of dabble and maybe play some keys here and there and add it to the session. But he's the one, he knows what he's doing, and I trust his lead. But to be able to kind of throw in some direction and like contribute to the collaboration with him is one of my favorite environments to be in for a studio, just because my strong suit has never been production. That's something I learned later on, and I've just worked with people who have gone to school for production and engineering, and I am not that versed specifically in that, though I have learned some of the basics and the principles of it. I have an idea of what to do, but it's really cool to enter into that environment and be able to dabble and add my own creativity to it, but know that it's in good hands of somebody who knows what they're doing and can kind of take my idea and fletch it out more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it looks like you have a mic, like an isolation thing behind you. So
I
are
do.
you cutting some stuff at home as well, or what's that process like?
Yeah. So I should revert a little bit. I work on music with him a lot, but I still do my own stuff here. I haven't been producing as much as of recent, but I would say 50%, 60% of the stuff that I record is recorded at my own studio, and then I'll send it off to a friend and get it like mixed and mastered. I normally don't go too deep on that process. I'll typically
Yeah.
record it here, do a light mix, and get like a demo where I'm like comfortable with it, and then I'll send all my files to somebody else and have them, really, really polish it.
So I know on your Instagram, I read your bio. You said human being who makes music, you write, and you explore the way that we think. So does all of that come through in the music that you're doing? I know you posted a rap not too long ago on Instagram where you talked about the four agreements. And not every rapper is rapping about the four agreements. So how does all of that come together for you creatively?
I think it's just been the stuff that I've been like really interested in the last 4 or so years. I think we talked about some of this stuff in our last chat about me kind of being on this self improvement journey, and a lot of that inspiration has came from certain books like that. The Four Agreements being one of them that just really kind of shaped my mindset and kind of broke me out of certain cage or box that we typically think in. So I take a lot of inspiration from books like that. Like you call them self help books, I call them psychology because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Um, I take inspiration from that, and it comes through in the music, but it's also kind of just the mindset that I'm living in and trying to operate, and it's a reflection of the things I'm experiencing, the things I'm seeing, and it just whatever I'm going through, or I mean the way I am in general, it's going to reflect in the music one way or another, wherever I am currently. So that's
Awesome.
kind of how Four Agreements has came into some of the lyrics.
So Sunny the Flying Cat says that is so cool. I love the Four Agreements, life-changing book for Sunny the Flying Cat. So I love that name too, Sunny.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I
um,
highly recommend the Four Agreements. Like it is an incredible book. That is not an understatement, Sonny.
so is music for you then? I know you mentioned psychology. Is music for you sort of a form of therapy and expression for yourself as well? Kind of as you said, dealing with things, dealing with feelings. Like, is the music a way for that to come out of you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, I've realized I was a creative person from a young age, but as I've gotten older, I realized I started to understand like the more the more you suppress it and don't find a way to channel and express, the worse it is on your mental health, because a lot of people who are creative, they never prioritize it or make time for it. And if you are somebody who is creative, I can't think of there's like the big five traits, and creativity is like um, high in neurosis and openness. I'm butchering that, but it's something like
Yeah.
that, which kind of qualifies you as considered a creative person. And if you don't express that, it is really to your detriment. So uh, it's very important to me to prioritize time to create for the sake of creating alone. And as far as like putting stuff out and the external results, that's a separate process.
So, um, so tell me about this. In the beginning of this, you said you want to really focus and develop what you're doing, and you really want to meet the right people. You want to do the right things. I want to take it out big picture, sort of what's your long term goal, and then I want to sort of talk about more of what's going on. But where do you see Bowdizz? Like, what's your ultimate goal? Like, do you want to turn this into like your career? Do you want to turn this into like different businesses? Like, I'm wearing your merch right now, by the way, the
I appreciate that.
the Phoenix little emblem. But yeah, so what's the long term? Like, what is like? Bowdizz LLC? Like, what is that vision?
Yeah, I think the best way to say it would be to work for myself full time, make a living off of it. And as far as like the specifics of how I'm making the living, it doesn't necessarily have to be just music or just writing, but I do want to have my own business that allows me to pay rent based off of what I'm doing. So that could come through, multiple streams of revenue, whether it be merch or multiple businesses. But I just want to work for myself at the end of the day when I'm thinking like big picture. And even if I weren't to get to that, the sub goal right under that would be just to like prioritize time to do music and writing and the creative stuff that's important to me.
So, Michelle had a great question. So she says, I don't know much about the Midwest. She says, is Michigan or parts of it really an artist community versus Minnesota? Basically asking, why did you pick Michigan to move to from Minnesota? She's heard of artists moving to other larger cities, but not necessarily Michigan. So what was your motivation to go to Michigan?
That's a great question. I did not move here solely for the purpose of music. It was more of I would really call it kind of a spiritual calling to
Hmm.
move to a new state and move out of my comfort zone and start from scratch. There was just something in my intuition that was telling me that I had to do that because I reached a certain point where I was like, if I don't move out of state and start new, it's something I wanted to do for a while, then I'm never going to do it. So I just had to take that leap. Um, as far as music goes, though, I never intended to stop making it once I moved here. I just, that's what I was going to answer about that. Why I picked Michigan was there's nice nature. It's close to like Chicago and Detroit, which was kind of what I was thinking as far as being connected to some good music hubs that are close, but I'm not centrally there. Um,
Yep.
but it was also close enough to Minnesota for me to make the drive in a day, and it was affordable. So that's kind of how I landed on Michigan, but I didn't move out to Michigan with the sole purpose of like for music reasons.
But since you've moved, I've noticed that you've done more performances. I've seen that you've had some like shows with different artists, doing different concerts and opening for different people. Have those opportunities started to come up for you and more opportunity in that respect?
Yeah, they have. For a while when I moved here, I wasn't connected to anybody, so I was just reaching out through email, trying to get on shows and trying to find places where I could connect with people. And that took a while to find something here. Like once I moved here, I landed a couple shows that were in different states that, but not specifically Michigan. Once I landed my first one in Lansing, which was March of 2023, that was a really good show, and I connected and met a lot of people there. One of them being my good friend Dylan, who I was talking about, that I now record with in South Haven. So for a while, it was just kind of reaching out through cold emails to try and get in touch with shows, venues, promoters, and that sort of thing. And then I finally landed one, and it turned out to be a great opportunity. I got to meet um, some important connections. So once I got that, and I kind of had been working at my job for a while, and meeting friends that way who started hearing about my music and stuff, I started to build like a small community, and that allowed me to do a couple house shows here in the Kalamazoo area where I live in too, which further led to more being more connected for music and other opportunities. So it's been really cool, and now I feel like I'm in a much better spot where, as you said, more opportunities are starting to present themselves, and people are certain people are reaching out to me as opposed to me reaching out and trying to make it happen.
Well, we were originally supposed to do this like a week from now, I think February 8th, and you emailed me and said, "Hey, can we move it because you have a gig?" And I think you are doing a show a week from today, right?
Yeah, I am. That is in Akron, Ohio, opening for an artist who kind of took off on TikTok. His name's Lit Frank, but I got on that show through the same process I was talking about with the cold email approach, and I got the confirmation on that right around the same time we were talking about doing this, and it just happened to fall on the same day.
Awesome. So I love what you just said, and I love that for the people that I know that watch my channel. um, Really, artists who are out there doing it on their own and kind of wanting to be independent, and they want to turn it into something. I love that you really completely moved to a new area. I don't know if you knew a lot of people there or not, but you just were like, I'm going to move and I'm just going to do this. And then you're taking the initiative and you're reaching out to people to share what you're doing, to really sort of look for opportunities. I think that is such a piece that a lot of creative people or a lot of musicians miss, is the fact that no one's going to swoop in and say, "Oh, let me do this for you." Right? Like, is that kind of what your mindset is? Or if someone came to you and said, "I want to do what you're doing," how would you explain that thought process, or what does that look like for you?
100%. I think it starts from you have to believe in yourself to because like you said, no one's gonna swoop in. You have to believe in yourself and put yourself out there initially, and that's what I did moving out here. And I think I don't remember what your question was specifically, but I think this will answer it. I think as artists trying to do that, it's being a creative, it's very easy to get stuck on wanting to just create and make good music, which is obviously important. But if you want to grow and build a network and connect with people, you have to also treat the business side of it and cater to that and put the effort into that. And that like dynamic split of being creative and also like running it as a business can be very, very difficult. It's one of the things that is very challenging for me, as I'm sure you've experienced it too. But if you are an artist who's serious about doing it full time and growing, you can't just neglect the business side and never put any effort into that, because like you said, no one's going to just come find you and put you on. You got to be willing to go the extra mile to make it happen.
I've heard someone say that business is a longer word than music. And I think what that saying means is, like, you really need to study the business side and the music side, but business is going to take a lot more work than the music side, kind of a thing. Like,
Yeah,
business is a longer word than music is.
that's I've never heard that, but that's so spot on, because I feel like to I feel like to make it, or to be to the point where you can do it full time, it's like getting good quality music is like 10% of it. The other 90% is like how you get the music to the people, which is so challenging in today's day and age with the saturation of the market and just how many people are doing it. Not to make any excuse, but yeah, you can't sidestep the business. There's really no way around it unless you want to just do it as a fun thing on the side. If you really want to get on shows, take it seriously, then you have to be willing to take the time to figure out the business stuff, or at least like meet people who can help you with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to think of yourself like it just as if you were like going to start like a local flower shop, right? Like, if you were starting a flower shop, you'd know that, yeah, we probably need to have a good looking store. We need to buy product. We need to, we're going to have to advertise. How do we get the word out there? What is our competition like? All of those same things that you would think about starting a store is what you have to think about as an artist. Like you just said, I think there's over 100,000 songs uploaded every single day. to Spotify, right? And that's
That's
just
crazy.
one site. That's like 22 million songs a year or something. So how do your songs stand out? And I think what you've been doing, from what I can see, is you have to connect with people off of the internet. Like, it's really hard to, because people always say, like, I need streams, I need streams, I need streams, I need streams. Streams don't necessarily equal fans, right? Because I mean, a stream gets you what, a sixth of a cent or whatever the low amount is.
Like a
And I
third.
know, yeah, like, it's ridiculously low. So you're not going to really make money off of that, even if you have, I think, what is it, like, if you have a million streams, it's like $3,500. Like,
Yeah.
what that might float you for a month or two. Like, okay, um, how much work do you have to put in to get a million streams, right? Not to say that a million streams is nothing, but there's a
Right.
lot more that you can do. But you just released a project where you kind of are saying, I don't want to use this traditional streaming model. So what are you doing?
Yeah. I'm doing a, you could call it a direct to consumer model. And I just want to make one other point on what you're saying about streaming, because it's so
Yeah.
true. Is like your streaming numbers doesn't necessarily equate to ticket sales and people who will come to your shows, because I mean, streams can be fake, first of all, but you can also have tons of streams, but it doesn't mean that people are connected with you and they really care to go the extra mile to come out and see you. So it's not the only metric to use as far as your reach, so to speak. But
Yep.
yeah, I just put out a new project through a platform called Even, and it is a direct to consumer model, which basically the idea is, and I heard about this from other artists that started doing it. I think the industry is really headed in this direction. But basically, Even is a platform where you can upload your music and you can have your fans buy your album or project, and the money goes directly to you. So they have to access it through that platform, and it's a pay what you want model. So anybody can pay as much as they want to support you, and then you set like a certain minimum. Mine is like the price of a coffee. And it's really cool because you give people the opportunity to basically invest in the underground independent artists that they want to see grow. So if you really believe in somebody, like, because you see people comment all the time and say like, wow, why does this not have more views? Like, just on videos in general, like, how do not more people not know about this? And like, this is a direct opportunity for those people to support these artists directly so that they can grow and get that exposure. And it's really cool, man, because you can put it up on Even, which is the only place you can listen to it for the time being, but it gives people the opportunities to support you directly. And then like a month later, around there, like, it will be up on all streaming services for people to listen to, but at least it gives me the opportunity to not only value my art, because I do care about it. I put music out for years for free, but it gives the people who want to support me that opportunity to directly give it to me, as opposed to going through a streaming service and, like we said, a sixth of a penny per stream. It's like they're actually investing in you. So it's
So
been really cool so far, and I'm excited to see where the industry is going to shift with this coming into play.
so what is your minimum? Do you mind sharing, like?
No, it's $7 minimum, and then you can pay as much as you want. I'm very appreciative of anybody willing to pay $7 to support me. Like, it goes a really long way, and it means a lot to me. So I
So
appreciate everybody who's supported so far.
that $7, I mean, if you think about it this way, from a just a music business standpoint, if I did the calculation correctly, just to get $7, you need almost 2,000 streams to make
Yeah.
that same $7, right?
Yep.
So at this way, you're actually getting money that's paid directly to you, right? Or do they take does Even take a cut or anything, or how does that work? How do they make money?
I was wondering the same thing. I'm new to it, so I don't know the exact details on that. They might take like a small cut, but it does show you on the platform. It shows you the streaming equivalent based off of what you've earned on it. So it shows
Nice.
you made this much money and it equates to this many streams. And like you said, just from $7, that's way more than I would make off the jump from just going to streaming. You know, it's going to take me way longer to get to that number and earn that.
So let me ask you this then. So obviously you're on a site where you're sort of in control, and your fans, you're actually incentivized to then make real fans that are like, hey, I want to invest in you. Your music means enough that I want to throw down some money, which is kind of in a way the old fashioned way, right?
It
Um,
is.
but how do you then get people to go to this site?
How do I like get
Like,
them to?
how are you drawing people to like your link to purchase your music, right? How do you obviously on a like a Spotify, I mean it's probably the same thing, right? On a Spotify, people have a chance of discovering you. On Even, do they have a chance of like does Even sort of cross promote people who are on the platform? Like how do you get people to go to the site?
I see what you're saying. They cross promote for like more established artists. I've seen them like posting on their social media and sharing their projects and stuff. But for artists like me, they're not doing that. So basically, the idea to get people there is through your social media and marketing, as opposed to the other way of like through streaming getting discovered through like playlists and stuff. This is more it's more catering to the people that already support you through social media.
Got
And
it.
making the idea is making content there, getting your content on as many eyes as possible, and then through that um, funneling them to your link to buy your project, if that makes sense.
So when you perform live, are you creating any physical product that you sell with the music as well, or how do you promote it at shows?
I have not had an opportunity to promote it at a show. I haven't performed since it came out, but um, I wish I had physical CDs. I think that's a really cool idea. I don't have anything lined up or connected to make that possible at the moment. I do have like these postcards that have a QR code
Cool.
that I hand out at shows and put at my merch booth, and you just scan it and it'll pull up the link to Even for the project, and then it'll have like my social media and streaming channels below that too.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest if you don't have, like, postcards or, like, business cards or something to hand out at shows, that would be a great way to get people to go there for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I saw a comment here from Unquestionable Design, said, "Love to see, any kind of live stream, especially, exposing the process or talking about the craft and the production. Keep it up." So somebody we've got a fan out there. So,
Yo, shout out to Unquestionable Design. He is a really cool dude. I remember I met him in Fargo through some artists who go by High Elevation out there. They had me come out and do a show with them in Fargo. I think, man, it had to be like 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a while, but I met Unquestionable Design through them, and he does like really cool artwork, and he's been supporting me since. So big
cool.
shout out, man. I appreciate you coming in here.
Um I've seen on your social media that you've had some people that have really been responding well to your new project. Can you tell us a little bit about how the project came about and where these songs sort of came from and what led you to sort of put out this music?
Yeah. So this project initially, like the title is I have to put this out initially, and some of this still holds true, but the idea was I had a bunch of like solid finished songs that have been sitting on my computer for a while, and I've always thought that they were good. I just never put them out as a single. And some of them are like 4 years old. And I started to get to this point where I'm afraid I'll never put them out if I don't soon, just because like there's the chance of me outgrowing them. There's the chance of me just like not liking them anymore. And they make each of these songs, making them and having them to listen to for myself has provided the value for me that's really helped me. And if it can serve me to that degree, music connects with people. So for that reason, like they deserve to see the light of day and see if other people do connect with them. But basically, it just reached a point where I had enough of these songs that I'd made in that kind of 2 to 4 year range where I wasn't doing anything with them. And I just said, I'm just going to put them on a project. It's going to be an EP. I thought it might be like 5 or 6 songs initially, but then I just realized as I started doing the packaging of, getting artwork and building the foundation of the idea for what the project is, there was a couple more on there. So we got 9 songs on there. 3 of them have been released. So there's 6 new songs, but the 3 that have been released are very much in the same context and concept. And yeah, like I said, I just been sitting on them too long, and it was time to find a way to put them out. And it so happened to be around the time that I heard about Even, and I decided we're going to give this a shot and see how it goes.
Well, I love the, pay what you want format because it does give people a chance to sort of decide, how much they want to support. But I also love the fact that it is sort of putting things back into the hands of the artist. I think one of the biggest examples of an artist controlling distribution is Taylor Swift releasing her concert video to movie theaters, and she did it through her own company. So she negotiated directly with the theaters. She avoided going through a studio. So she and the movie theaters were the ones who made the profit. So I think there's going to be a shift of artists being like, you want to buy my stuff? You're going to go through my website. You're going to download it through me. They're going to cut out the sort of
Middleman.
middlemen, like people dipping into it. I think there's like these shifts within the industry that are starting to go very much where people want to control their own distribution, because Spotify is going to die someday. Like it's never going to last. Like their model is designed in a way where it's just going to keep building and building and building, and it's going to implode because they won't be able to afford it. But one of the things that Spotify's doing now is they're not paying for every stream. Like there's a certain level you have to hit before you actually start getting actually paid for your music. So they're actually going to be like, some people say it's theft. They're stealing from people, but it's not theft because people are agreeing to be on their site, right? So you're kind of signing up to have them screw you. But there is a shift. So like Even seems to be like they're on that cusp of sort of that next wave of sort of the music industry. So I think you're onto something, actually.
Thank you, man. Yeah, like I said, I saw other artists doing it, and that's what put me onto it. Like other more established artists, and I really, like you said, with streaming, I feel like it's gonna reach that point where it just kind of shuts down. I see the industry heading that way back to the more direct to consumer model, and it really is essentially similar to the old days when artists used to sell physical CDs. You're buying the art. Like the slogan on Even's website is buy art from the artist. And I think that's so cool and so important and valuable, because as artists know, it's really, really hard to monetize your creativity. It's one of the hardest things to do, but Even is kind of paving the way for artists to be able to do that, or at least stop getting screwed by the streaming services, you know?
Yeah. Sunny had kind of a question and comment. Said, "Have you heard of selling a song for a fundraiser or charity? It could draw attention to both the artist and the cause."
That's a great idea. Um, maybe I've heard of something similar, but not pitched in that way specifically. I think that could work really well if you found you know, a fundraiser or a charity that was relevant to who you are as an artist and what you stand behind. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think there has to be a certain level of demand on both sides, right? To do something like that. Because if I said, "Hey, I'm going to put out a single and I'm going to donate the proceeds to a charity," it's like, okay, here's the nickel I made last year, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like nobody's streaming it. Like, I mean, that's not a good thing. But maybe you put on like a charity concert or something, and then the tickets go towards, you know, something, and then everybody who buys a ticket gets to download the album. Or I think there's creative ways that you can do that to where you can make more money, but I think it would be a collaborative thing between you and the charity. I think once you're an established artist and you actually have like people that are like, maybe you're the headliner on a tour, or like you're at the point where you are making a living, I think it's more doable. I think for people who are just starting out, it sounds good, but I just don't know if the money is there to really help in that respect.
yeah. I agree. I think you need to be established to a certain extent to make it feasible.
Right. Um so I know before we were coming on here, we had talked about a little bit about how do you stay creative when you have other stuff to do, like, I mean, life, and you know, I've got a million things I do. But I know you brought up kind of wanting to talk about how do you stay creative even though you're busy?
Yeah, this is something that's been very challenging for me ever since I started making music and taking it seriously. And I think a lot of artists can relate. But the biggest thing that has been effective for me is like really prioritizing time to create. You know, just setting time aside to create for creating with no strings attached other than this block of time is for me to express creatively and do my thing. But you do have to prioritize that, right? Because there's so many other life things that we have to take care of on a daily basis. Everybody has a job, you know, maybe kids, bills have to be paid. So that's why it can be so hard. What I've found that works the best for me, as of recently, is doing something every day, or making time every day and prioritizing it. So the goal that I kind of set to myself was I'm going to find time every single day, no matter what, for at least 20 minutes to write and be creative. For me, it's just writing. It could be for Medium, the writing stuff I do, or writing music. But like that's the commitment I made to myself, is like every single day, a bare minimum of at least 20 minutes. I'd like to get more than that, but on days where it's very hectic, like you work all day, you have certain obligations, you have other stuff going on, it can be very difficult to find time. But I found that if you're able to just even find that little 20-minute period, it could be less than that too, and you do that consistently, it makes so much more of a difference, not only to relieve yourself through getting your expression out, but also to advance your content and make more music by pushing the needle forward in a small way every day, as opposed to trying to move a mountain every once in a while.
So I just did the math quick on 20 minutes a day, and if you do 20 minutes a day over the course of a year, that's the equivalent of over 3 40-hour weeks. So
Wow.
that's like basically 3/4 of a working month if you just put in 20 minutes a day. That's a lot of creativity.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I didn't realize it was that much. I should specify too, like that has nothing to do with the business stuff I do for music. Like
Yeah.
that comes I'm doing that too, but the business stuff is not as regimented as the creativity. Like the creativity is the highest priority to, you know, for one, keep me sane because it is
Yeah.
therapeutic, but also to be efficient and be getting better and be making stuff. It really has helped me.
So are you like putting 20 minutes in like your phone calendar and saying like this is the time I'm going to create, or like how are you setting up that 20 minutes in your day? Cuz I feel like if I just say I'm going to do 20 minutes, it's like good intentions, you know. It's like today becomes tomorrow and then tomorrow never comes, right?
Right. It's not specific enough.
Yeah,
Initially, when I started doing this practice, I was kind of like scheduling it at a certain time. But after I stuck to this for a while, I just found that I am the most creative in the morning, right when I wake up. So I
cool.
typically do it as one of the very first things in my day. A lot of times I've done it before work. And what's really cool about that is like you're literally prioritizing it sequence wise in your day. So like if you just get that 20 minutes and then you go to work, like you feel good that you put that before work, even like that reinforces to you that like you value your time for creativity more than your job if you don't like it, you know. So um overdoing the consistent 20 minutes at least a day, it's just kind of it started out having to find time and like put it in my schedule, but it kind of transitioned into just becoming a habit to do right when I wake up. And there are still certain days where, like tomorrow, for example, I have like a, a dentist appointment that's early in the morning, so I'll have to find time later in the day. But having built the habit, I just know that I find time to do it, and I always get to it eventually. I always make time to get to it.
Have you read or heard about The Artist Way by Julia Cameron?
That sounds familiar. I haven't read it though.
You should, because she talks about creativity as almost like a spiritual practice where we sort of, as creative people, we sort of have to do it. And she has this process called morning pages where she suggests, like, right away when you wake up, you just write 3 pages of whatever is on your mind and you just take that time to create something. And it starts your day from the foundation of creativity. So, like you said, even before you work, before the day sort of drags you down, you are putting something out into the universe to basically always establish yourself as a creator. And she equates that to being that's how we honor our creator, whatever you believe that is, whether that's the universe, religion, God, whatever, something that created us being able to create sort of honors the universe and all of that. So um, that's kind of how I think about it anyway.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that's very aligned. It's the same idea of what I'm doing, and it does honor that. It really does because you think about it, you're putting it before everything else. It just shows to yourself you're showing up for what you value and honoring the universe, so to speak.
Um, I personally, if I don't get to do music or if I don't get to write songs, I get very cranky. Like being able to create things and do those things is like legit part of what needs, like I think you said it keeps you sane. Like that's completely what it's like for me.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of creatives are like that too. I've noticed that just in the past, a lot of the times where I do get cranky or like moody, it's like right around the same time where I haven't got to write for a while or I haven't had time to do it. So it really does help. Really does help with that and alleviate stress. And you can just it's just expressing whatever you're going through. You can write about whatever's on your mind, and to see it tangibly on a page makes a big difference.
So I think I saw in your socials, are you reading The War of Art?
Yes,
What do you think of
yes,
that?
I love it. I those kind of books like nonfiction, um, related to creativity and self improvement. Those are my favorite kind of books, and that book I'm like halfway through it, but it's all about the same stuff that we're talking about, and it kind of illustrates this idea of the enemy is resistance of you getting your work done. And so far it's just kind of painted out all these different ways that resistance kind of tries to get you not to do it. And it talks about identifying resistance as the enemy, which is very, very related to all the stuff that we're talking about. So I haven't finished it, but I'm really enjoying it so far.
So Dan Corcoran in the chat said, same way. If he's not shooting videos, it's almost like withdrawals. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Yo, shout out Dan. I met him like 5 or 6 years ago, through this AMG. Dan, I appreciate you coming in the chat here, man. Hope you've been doing well.
Awesome. And I think that resistance thing that book talks about is sort of that feeling that we get when we feel like we should be creating something, and sometimes it's self-doubt, right? Like sometimes we sort of get that imposter syndrome that sneaks in, and it's like, oh, am I really good, and should I be doing this, am I doing the right thing? But then there's other times where it's like you're just tired, right? Like the resistance is you're spent at the end of the day, where that's why I think it's cool that if your way of alleviating resistance is by doing it when you first wake up, I think that's really what you're doing, is you're saying, I'm not going to put this behind other things because those other things become the resistance or that's the way
Yeah.
I think about it,
Yeah. That's spot on, man. It really is. Cause that's what it is. Those other things do become the resistance if you don't prioritize it or find a way in like whatever form that may come in, whether it be being too tired at the end of the day, which is a result of you having done life stuff that's gotten in the way. But that's kind of the idea, is like that's what we're fighting against, is the resistance. And if we can make time to create regardless, then that's a win in itself.
The highest resistance in my life is going to the gym. I'm just going to say that right now. Like, that ain't happening. I will be writing way more than going to the gym. So
Good for you. I with working out, I would say it's kind of the same idea as music. I've just been doing it it's just helped me a lot, and I've done it consistently for so long where like I have to go to the gym to feel good.
mm.
So it's essentially the same idea as what we're talking about with having to create. I have to also work out.
You go to the gym, I go to the fridge.
Yeah, I go to the fridge too.
So if anybody else has any comments or questions for Bowdizz or me, definitely put it in the chat, and we're happy to answer questions. I did want to touch on the fact that not only are you creative musically, but you're also a writer. So you've been writing for Medium.com, which for those of you who are not familiar with Medium, um, maybe you can explain to them like what Medium is and kind of what you do on that site.
Sure. Medium is kind of like a social media platform for writers. Anybody can join and anybody can publish on there. It's also there's certain tiers to it. Like you can do it you can go on there for free, but you only have a certain number of stories that you can read before you lose access for the week. And then if you're paying like the monthly, like $5, then you can read unlimited stories. And uh, there's people that on Medium that make a living off of it. Basically the more views and like read time that you get, the more money you can earn. I'm sorry, what was your other question about that?
Just what you do on there. Like, I know that you write on a regular basis. That's been part of your creative practice from what I can tell.
Yeah. I, in the past, I think about a year or so ago is when I first joined. How I got introduced to it though was um, I was trying to get into like freelance work for writing, and I was just kind of like exploring, listening to podcasts about it, and I heard about Medium, and I heard that people can make money on it, but it's also like just this cool site that's like a social media for writers. And I went and checked it out, and like I found myself on the feed on there, just like reading articles I was interested in, and I wanted to give it a shot. It really caught my curiosity, and I've always kind of been into writing when I was like younger in school and stuff. So I started writing some articles about some of the stuff we're talking about, self-improvement, creativity, mindset, and it came very naturally to me. So I just started staying consistent with that, and I really fell in love with the craft of it as itself. And it's been cool because there's a lot of overlap with the music and the concepts that I cover. So I've kind of been trying to find a way to kind of merge both the writing and the music into like Bowdizz as a brand. But I'm just kind of letting it happen naturally. I'm not really expecting anything from it. Like when I want to write articles, I write articles. When I want to write music, I want to write music. And like I kind of make that decision every morning when I wake up of like, okay, what's the minimum 20 minutes going towards today? And sometimes it'll go to both depending on how much time I have. But it's been really cool to see how quick you can grow on there if you stay consistent. And the community on there is really cool too, because like there's a lot of writers that I'll be reading their stuff consistently and learning a lot of valuable stuff that's related to what I'm interested in too. So I would recommend anybody who's interested in writing, being a part of a community, any kind of topic you're into, like Medium has it covered. Definitely go check it out.
So this question from Brad Bozick says, what would you say is more important, writing music or writing a story? Just curious.
Yeah, shout out Brad. Brad's been super supportive of my music. I met him at the first Michigan show that I did in Lansing. So big
Awesome.
shout out to Brad. I would say, I would say music. Music, if I have to pick between the two, I'm gonna pick music. I've been doing it longer, but I do really enjoy writing too. And that's a newer area that I've been exploring, but it's not, music's more important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the answer to that is it really depends on the person, right? Like if music means more to you, then awesome, do music. If writing means more to somebody else, like do the writing part of it. Do both. I don't think it doesn't really matter. And I think part of what the War of Art and then also other books that are out there, Seth Godin has a book and I can't remember what it's called right now, but it basically the concept is do the work without worrying about the results, right? And I think you just said that about your Medium writing where you're like no expectations, I'm just doing this and you're staying consistent. And I think no matter what your art is, if you're a songwriter, if you're a singer-songwriter, if you do things on a regular basis, you will get incrementally better. And the more you do something, the more you get into the zone of doing it and you get in that flow state where your sort of time goes away and like you really enjoy it and it adds to your life. But I also think that doing something without worrying about the results makes better art as well. Because the second you start thinking about, I want to make this to accomplish something, for me anyway, it feels like it taints it. But there are times where you have to do something just to make money. I mean, if the rents due, the rents due, right? So if you have to write a jingle, I'm writing the jingle. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, I think we touched on that a little bit last time. That's so true, though. It's the same idea as the law of detachment, from this book right here, Seven Spiritual Laws of Success.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the idea of the creating that process not having anything to do with the results, because I agree it does feel like it's more tainted once you're thinking of, oh, what audience am I trying to appeal to with this? Like, how's it going to be received? Like, the second that you do that, it just ruins the process, and it's not that flow state. It's not coming from an organic place. So that stuff can come into play later, but during the creative process, like, it's best to just focus on that and let it happen naturally, you know?
So that's probably our time for tonight. As we start wrapping up here, again, a reminder that Bowdizz has his new direct to consumer, direct to you release. The address is on the bottom of the screen. You can write that down. Otherwise, it's at Bowdizz9 at Instagram. I know that you have this
Mhm.
link in your bio, so people can reach it there. And you also have videos of you performing some of the new songs, which I think is really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I have some more of those that I'm gonna put out too. But the project is called "I Have to Put This Out." I appreciate you putting the link there. Those little videos I'm doing are kind of snippets from the songs on the project, and just to give a little taste of what's on there.
Awesome. So as we do close out tonight, do you have any final thoughts for people watching? A lot of them are probably creatives or songwriters, people out there doing it. What's your advice to them?
I would say the prioritizing creativity, man. If I think, because we touched on it a lot, I think that has been the biggest factor for my mental health. Helping with it is prioritizing creativity before my ideas eat me alive, so to speak. So I would say find something that works for you and prioritize it in your schedule, even if it is like only 15 minutes. Um, if you're a creative and you know deep inside that you want to create, or you want whatever it is, any pursuit, just push the needle forward in a small way every day.
Awesome. Well, Bowdizz, thanks for hanging out. This was awesome, and thanks for everybody who's been watching. And make sure you check out Bowdizz's music on Instagram, Bowdizz9. I'm gonna put it on the bottom of the screen so you can see it there. Call now. You know, touch the screen.
Yeah,
um, but no, thank you so much for doing this, and good luck on the gig next week. And it'll be exciting to have you back over time and see all the stuff that you're working on. So awesome.
absolutely, man. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having me. It was cool to catch up with you, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you have to come too. It sounds like you're doing a lot of cool stuff as well. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much, and we're gonna wrap up, everybody. But we'll see you all very, very soon.
Sounds
Have a good
good.
night.